So Neil, the season underway, the test event here at Gigg Lane taking place this week, where the fans will get the opportunity to have a look at the pitch for the first time, obviously the first home game coming up as well. A busy time for you and the team here at the football club.
Yeah, it's been a really busy summer. Hopefully you're all going to be wowed when you see the pitch, when you come in on Thursday. I think a test event gives a great opportunity for us to showcase the pitch. We've not been able to have that signing on session which was had last season, where fans were able to come down, and all the players were here. So I think even though we've just got the season underway, this is a great opportunity to come down this Thursday. It's a free of charge event. We're going to put a can bar on where you can grab a beer. You can go into the Manchester Road end, and basically you'll get to see all our adult teams are going to be here from about 6 o'clock having some photos done. And then at 6:45 the men's team are going to start the first team training for an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, and you'll obviously get to interact with some of the team.
Obviously, a lot has happened over the off-season in terms of various different changes here at Gigg Lane specifically. The first big one, obviously, is the pitch, the sort of transformation from a grass to an artificial surface, obviously with working with McArdle Sport on that. Just sort of tell us a bit about the process behind that, and obviously we've got to a completion stage that the bounce test has taken place recently. So just sort of give us an overview in terms of where we're at in terms of the pitch.
Yeah, no problem. So first of all, the pitch has been ahead of schedule, which is great. We've been lucky lately with the weather. So the pitch has been handed over to me this morning and signed back within our control. We've got the bounce test, as you quite rightly said, was done last Thursday. That takes up to a week to come back. However, the indicative results we've got on the day, which were all fine, so everything should be brilliant with it. First home game now will be the 10th of August. The pitch was handed back 2 weeks ahead of schedule. You'll notice a few changes when you do come and see the pitch for the first time, hopefully on Thursday. So when you do see the pitch, it will look slightly narrower. Now, ultimately, for people who are a bit of boffins here and want to look into this a bit more, ultimately the pitch, a standard FIFA-sized pitch, is 100 by 64. Our pitch that you'd used to see us playing on was 102 by 66. So when you do come in, you will see the pitch is narrower. However, what I would say is this is a standard pitch. Now, in terms of the reasons for that, which some of you might be asking the questions why, so we are classed as a ground grading 1. Now, what that means is, in terms of a runoff area, and that's the area after the byline until you reach the end of the stadium, the runoff area in a ground grading 1 has to be 2.75 metres. The more you go up the leagues and turn gradings, you don't have to have as high a runoff area because your players are meant to be more skillful. So as you go up the leagues, your runoff area might only be 1.83, for example. So what you'll see in our stadium currently is a 2.75 metre runoff with a bit of tolerance built in, which took you up to about 3. Now, our side of our pitches are about 4.2, 4.3 metres, and that's because ultimately the question has been asked, could we have had a bigger pitch? We could have had a bigger pitch, but because our surface was never flat, it would have meant flattening out the whole of the surface, which would have took and spent considerable amounts more money just to make it back to how it was before. And when I say considerable, it was significant, and we didn't deem that necessary, considering that we have got a FIFA standard pitch now, and ultimately we've got the advantage in terms of we're playing on like a carpet instead of what most people remember as last season was like a mud bath at times.
And obviously, a lot of this work has gone into sort of from McArdle Sports Tech in terms of the sort of actual delivery. I guess from your perspective and the rest of the board, it's a big thanks from everyone at Bury FC to McArdle.
Yeah, I mean, McArdle have done a great job. They told us it's going to be a 12-week project. Obviously, it's been a significant amount of outlay to go out. As I've touched on before, it will allow us to rent the pitch out to many external partners as well as internal and community. It allows us to get the community involved a lot more as well. McArdle have kept us up to date. We've had a drone footage being taken. There's one of those, I don't know what the media term is for it, but where you play a slow camera through it over the whole 12-week cycle, which will be getting released. McArdle are coming down this Thursday to do some more drone footage before the fans come in, and then do some filming with the players as well. So I think it's been a fantastic project for us and the football club, and like I said, I think fans are genuinely going to be wowed by what they see when they come in here.
Many fans will have bought a season ticket ahead of the start of this league campaign. Obviously, many of them will have reserved their seats. Obviously, season ticket collections also coming up. Just talk us through the process in terms of how fans can make sure that their seat is reserved for them, and in terms of the season tickets, what the collection process is going to be.
Yeah, no problem. So there was obviously a bit of clamour for people reserving a seat. And listen, we won't always get these things completely right. You know, for as many fans who said they wanted reserve seatings, it will then turn out that a lot of other fans said they didn't want reserve seating. So we have to try and find a happy medium. So what we've tried to do is the main sort of seating arrangements you'll see that have differed. Last season, you could obviously sit in the south stand, which holds just over 3,000. The main stand was only 600 roughly we could accommodate due to safety certificates, and we had the Cemetery End open, and then for the odd game, i.e. Semi-final playoff, we had the Charnock Richard in the Y of the Manchester Road End. Now the differences you'll see this season is the semi-end won't really ever be open unless there was an extraordinary event where I felt we needed to do it, and that is mainly down to stewarding costs and trying to keep a lid on those. The Manchester Road End as well won't be open unless we deem we have a fixture that maybe can be a bit boisterous, shall we say, and we decide to put the away fans in there. Now, what that'll allow us to do is have all our fans in the south stand and the main stand. Now, with the reserved seating, anyone who has reserved a seat for their season ticket, there will be a sticker on their seat saying reserved. So hopefully all fans realise that when you approach the stadium and come into the stadium, anything that's got a reserved sticker on, please don't sit in there unless it's your seat. There was about 4 or 5 stickers on different seatings around the stadium, go back 3 or 4 months ago. They've all been peeled off. They've all been cleaned, and there's now just one reserved seating in there. In terms of away fans, so away fans will sit in the far corner behind me in H and I. So there'll be no hard segregation in place because we don't need to in this league. And ultimately, even if you put the away fans in there, they would still mix behind them in the kiosks and things. So there'll be soft segregation in place, but the away fans will be, as I've told years ago, we're in HI, and that's where we'll put them. Unless we have an away game, like I said, a bit more boisterous, and then we'll decide to open the Y of the Manny Road End. For everyone else buying tickets, you will be able to buy them on Ticket Go up to including the day itself. If you do buy them up to the day, you will be able to sit in the south stand or the main stand. However, just to make it clear, if you do arrive on the day and want to pay at the turnstiles, whether that's be cash or card, the only option you'll have there is to come into the main stand on the day itself.
And just talk us through that specific decision and why that's the case.
Yeah, so obviously the main stand itself takes a lot more in terms of stewarding costs. You have to have stewards at every egress and ingress point in this stand. So if you end up with a stand with only 700 people in and they're all dotted around, you still need to have stewards at all the main egress and ingress points, and it has to fit in with what's called your green guide, which is your stadium to steward ratio with the fans. So ultimately, we don't want to have done this work and spent thousands getting this main stand open and then not really try and fill it. So if you think about it, the south stand and the main stand hold about 5,500. Generally, we won't really get crowds over that. So it makes sense just to have the south stand and main stand open, but we just want to make sure we're utilising it enough. So ultimately, we give fans the choice. Up until the day, you can purchase in south stand, but if you do arrive on the day, paying cash or card, then yeah, you'll just need to take a seat within the main stand.
Obviously, sort of following on from that, in terms of people trying to reserve tickets on the day, obviously on Ticket Co, there's various bits of seating blocked out. Just for clarity, why is that?
Yeah, when we were looking at the seating plan, first of all, we took some feedback on board from people who sit in A block, and obviously they like their seats in A block, and that's where a lot of the atmosphere can come from at times. We wanted to make sure that we were keeping that free for people to effectively go and sit in their seat on the day and pick a seat on the day, so we wanted to block that off. The other thing you'll see is as you come up the stairwell, which is I think by gate 5, where you come up, where's Cass usually at the reception point, and you come up through those stairs, that bit on the left hand side, as soon as you come up that stairwell and turn left, there's about 200 seats there. They've been reserved for 1885 and hospitality and sponsors. Some of the feedback was people who'd bought in those areas who'd spent a bit more money weren't getting allocated a seat, and we needed to take that into account. So you'll see that has been blocked out as well. The other bit, a couple of bits that are worth mentioning is, first of all, there's an area around where we are now where you used to see players sitting behind who weren't part of the matchday squad or physios and things. So that area's been kept blocked out as well for players to sit as well, and they'll have reserve stickers on as well. And then the final area just to touch on is, I think down here in the main stand area, just a bit further down there, is what used to be called the director's box area. And again, that area will only be have reserve stickers on, and that will only be for board directors, and we'll be repackaging that as the director's box that it used to be, because I think it's important that obviously we segregate certain areas of the crowd and then certain seating packages.
So moving on to match day experience, Neil, obviously you've talked about what fans can expect when they sort of have a reserved seat and they're able to watch the football out there, but obviously there's a lot in terms of being able to get a good match day experience, whether that be in the kiosks or whether that be in hospitality or in Starkies, which I'd sort of like to talk about next, which obviously in an update this week you've revamped that in terms of match by match Starkies passes, which obviously were going to come anyway once the full fixtures were being released. Just talk us through the difference in terms of how Starkies will operate this season in terms of how fans can access it, because obviously last season it was very much predominantly those fans that were able to sit and had tickets here in the main stand.
Yep, no problem. So Starkies is quite a big one because I do realise it's been quite a topical point on social media. But I think the first thing I want to try and get across about this is ultimately we have the costs of running a major stadium, and part of my remit is to make sure I look at all commercial opportunities whilst also taking into account the needs of the fans and making sure we have something for everyone. I think that's the most important thing I want to get across. Now, what that meant is Starkies last season, you could only access Starkies last season if you were in the main stand, okay? So before and during the game was main stand only. So straight away, bear in mind I've already said a bit earlier that most of your fans are in the south stand. Straight away, you're already saying before the game that only people can go in the main stand can access it. Secondly, on that point, we don't open the turnstiles till 1:30 in the main stand. So in terms of a revenue opportunity, people aren't actually coming into the stadium until 1:30, and that means that they're drinking in a local establishments instead, and we want to obviously maximise our revenue earner. So those are the considerations that were in my head when we looked at the total package. So what I wanted to do is make sure that everyone has access to Starkies, and that's been a few logistical challenges trying to get to that point. But I'm delighted to say that basically anyone who has now got or wants to come to the ground and go into Starkies before or during the game now can do, even if you sat in the south stand, by purchasing a Starkies pass. Now, a Starkies pass, some people have decided to purchase one for a season, an adult price of £150, and some people have decided they're going to buy it on a match by match basis. And I think it'd be remiss of me not to talk about the fact, yes, we were going to charge £100 for under 16s in Starkies, but we took some feedback at the fans forum, and part of that was it was cutting off some of our more junior supporters, and we're trying to grow our football club. So, I think the club should be commended on the point that we've took that feedback on point, and we've now said under 16s there's no charge. So, in terms of a season pass, there's still a season pass available at £150, but for under 16s it's free. Now, since then, we've also, and it was always our intention to launch this, we've launched it on a game-by-game basis. So for £7, you'll be able to access Starkies before and during the game, and for that you will get a pie, which is usually £4, £4.50. You'll get a programme, which is usually £3, and more importantly, you'll get access to a former legend. So that legend will go in Starkies beforehand, and they'll do a 20-minute Q&A, whether it's about the former playing career, whether it's about the team at the stage it's at the moment. Okay. Now, the next challenge we had was currently, going back to where it was, after the game, you had the other problem. So you had people approaching Starkies, everyone after the game, and you'll all be familiar with stewards on the door with a clicker, and as soon as it got to 100 people, we had to turn people away. So we had both ends of the scale. We had before the game, people aren't using it because we're opening the stadium too late and we're only allowed main stand, and then after the game, we had it too full. So with this reasoning, you have to try and guarantee your numbers. So in order to guarantee your numbers before the game, you have to put some kind of cost on it, because I'm paying for bar staff, I'm paying for BT Sports. So to put the early Premier League game on, that's £350 a month. So all these things are costs, which as a football club we have to keep an eye on these costs. The only way of doing that was to try and put some sort of lower level hospitality package on, but present some real value. Now, when I do these things, we have gone out to other commercial partners, we've looked at what other clubs are doing, we've taken into account some external feedback. And although there's a percentage of fans out there that think, well, hang on, this is free and it's always been free. We've only been back for a season. We had a season of dipping our toe in the water with certain initiatives. And like any commercial operation, you need to evaluate what you've got in place. And I think we've done that. I get the fact that some fans don't agree with it. And you know what? That's fine. But ultimately, for 17 quid, you can come to the game as an adult, you can have your pie, your programme, a dry space, watch a Premier League game, and get access to a Q&A with a former legend. I personally don't think that's an outrageous cost to pay, but like anything, as we always say, life's about choices.
In terms of fans that are sort of taking up the Starkeys Pass, whether that be on a full season basis or buying it for certain games, obviously from a main stand perspective, it's fans can obviously walk down to Starkeys and then come back to their seat. From a south stand perspective, obviously it's not as simple as that, and there's obviously there's a pitch in the way, and there's the Manchester Road end as well. Just talk us through how fans can, in the south stand specifically, work through that, and how they can obviously, once they want to leave Starkeys and go to their seat, what's the process behind that?
Yeah, no problem. So we've had to walk through this. So effectively, the gate to the turnstile by the front of Starkeys, where the yellow gate is in the Manny Road end, they will arrive, for argument's sake, at 12:30 to the game. They will enter that turnstile, which means they're then counted as being in the ground. They then walk into the bottom of Starkeys and then enter into Starkeys and have their food, talk to the legend, etc. And then when they've decided they want to go and take their seat in the south stand, you will walk back to the bottom of Starkeys, you'll turn right, and you'll walk in front of the Manchester Road end into your seat in the south stand. In terms of people in Starkeys who've got a pass, a barcode to the main stand, they'll come to the double doors at the front of Starkeys. They'll be asked to show their pass into the main stand, and then they'll be allowed then into the main stand and take the seat. So I would ask fans for some patience, because you're clearly going to have a steward on those double doors, and he is going to say to you, before you come out this door, can I see your barcode please to the main stand? Because if you've got a barcode that's a south stand, he's going to say you can't come through, because obviously from a health and safety capacity, we need people to be sitting where they should be sitting. So if you're in the south stand, you need to be in the south stand. So that is before and obviously then and during the game as well. But obviously after the game, anyone can access Starkeys. So obviously if you're in this stand, you'll just be able to walk through, which is another advantage of being in the main stand, because obviously, you know, you'll be there a lot quicker. And bear in mind, after the game, it's free for everyone. So if you want to get ahead of the game, you know, the main stand is probably the one to be in. But obviously the south stand will be able to walk across and up, as I've just described.